I've always been really into speedrunning, seeing people beat some of my favorite games in the fastest and weirdest ways possible. A big channel that really got me into speedrunning is a channel I'm sure you're all familiar with, Summoning Salt. He breaks down the history of speedrunning in a whole variety of games, whether those games are Mario Kart, Tetris, Wii Sports. However, what he doesn't cover are some of the weirder and more absurd runs in speedrunning history. He typically covers very popular and well-known games, but like I said, no weird or obscure speedruns, just some pretty standard run histories. These runs combine the genuine dedicated effort it requires to actually speedrun a game in general, while still matching that silly and absurd tone that you know I just love to talk about. So, without further ado... Nope. This is not going to be anything like a Summoning Salt video. I promise you, I'm not quite there yet. Now, I'm not going to be explaining exactly how every trick works in every run, or even covering every run in their entirety. If I was to do that, I would most likely be here for hours. I'll just be explaining exactly what you need to know to understand what you're seeing and what I'm talking about. And, of course, what makes every one of these runs so interesting. I may break down some runs in a more specific and in-depth manner in the future if that's something that you'd like to see, but that's not what today's video is about. The first game that I want to cover is a game I'm sure you're all familiar with, Portal. Now, I'm sure you've seen plenty of Portal speedruns before. They are extremely complex and are packed with tons of skillful execution and masterful tricks. The run that we're going to be covering in Portal today is fairly similar to your standard out-of-bounds Portal run. What I mean by out-of-bounds is you can go out of bounds. You can basically do anything you need to do to beat the game. There just so happens to be one major exception to this run. 2 cups. 2 cups. That's it. 1 cup, 2 cup. The name of the category for this run is not surprisingly called Cup Percent, with only 3 runs that I could find on speedrun.com. This is a type of speedrun that hinges on gathering a certain item in the game and bringing it to the end of the game. Now, this isn't a super uncommon style of speedrun in the speedrunning community. I just think what makes it so funny is the items that you're obtaining in this game aren't major story items or items that you'd even normally collect or even normally see. They're 2 random cups that most players probably didn't even know existed in the Portal game. This is why I think it stands out from your standard normal Portal run. With a time of 12 minutes and 43 seconds, like I said, this is fairly similar to your standard Portal 1 out-of-bounds speedrun. Obviously, with the added caveat with the added caveat of needing to bring the 2 titular cups to the end of the game. They use most of the same tricks, or at least style of tricks, those tricks being bee hopping, the save load glitch, portal hopping, and plenty more technical and advanced tricks slash glitches that I'm just not even going to try to understand. Aside from the wacky out of bounds tricks going on for most of the video, one thing remains constant. This guy, Dicey Alex. Dice Alex, you see how this is spelled, right? What is dice? Regardless, this guy loves Portal. Oh, also, and Roblox too. It takes a ton of skill and knowledge to speedrun a game like Portal, and the fact that bro is literally carrying around 2 random cups found in the game throughout the whole run makes it that much more funny. It takes an already hard game to speedrun and adds 1 extra variable, or 2. It may not be as impressive as the LSD percent, or you've heard of Poe, right? Or Poo? Poo? The game where you literally take care of a pile of shit. Or maybe he's not actually a pile of shit. I think he's an alien that just looks like a pile of shit. But yeah, he's a pile. The game revolves around you taking care of Poe? I feel like it's Poe. I'm gonna say Poe now, actually. The game revolves around you taking care of Poe by means of feeding, cleaning, and entertaining him, along with any other of his daily needs. Now, in this game, there are certain mini-games that you can play with Poe. Playing these mini-games provides tons of customization options for Poe, such as hats, hats or glasses or throwing up some stuff in his room. Now, the speedrun we're going to be talking about in Poe doesn't actually have an official name, so I'm just going to be calling it the volley percent. Now, I know we just talked about one of the most technical speedruns that you've ever seen in gaming, but let me just one-up that right now. Take a look at this. Yep. I know. These types of speedruns in gaming are fairly popular, a minigame within a game rather than the entire game, which makes sense for games of this nature. And now you may be asking, what makes this run so interesting or funny or absurd? And to that, I say, are you seeing this? Am I the only one seeing? Now, like I said, this is a very simple speedrun with a time of 21 seconds. You just have to beat the bot that you're put against in the volleyball minigame. It's that simple. I mean, look at this skill, this finesse. Truly the marking of a real gamer. Honestly, probably harder than the Portal run, in my opinion. Now, there are other more skill-based speedruns that you can do in this game. I just found this one to be the most interesting and random and, I don't know, the funniest, maybe, if you even want to call it that. Do you remember Clue? Yeah, I don't either. Well, I do remember it, but I never really played it as a kid. But I know the premise. One person is the murderer. Your goal is to find that murderer, find out how he murdered his victim, and where he did it, and what he did it with. Now, the category of run we're going to be talking about for Clue is called an any percent run. An any percent run basically means you can use any means necessary to beat the run, whether it's cheating or using glitches. However, the Clue speedrun is primarily luck-based. Essentially, this speedrun hinges on guessing who the murderer was so that you can do it in the fastest time possible, rather than having to actually play the game, figure out the clues, and make a logical and educated guess on who you think did it. If you guessed correctly and clicked fast enough, look at that, you got a new world record. There's really no crazy skill involved, just knowing where to click and when to click. Now, what I find interesting about this run is just how simple it is. You thought that the Poe run was simple? Are you seeing this? Let's take a look at the run real quick.
Miss Scarlet?
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing. With a time of under 1 second, this is easily the shortest speedrun that I have ever seen. Now, from my understanding, being that this is an any percent run, the runner is choosing only 2 bots as opponents for this game, so it's really a 50-50 chance who he guesses. Then it's just a matter of guessing who it is and where they did it, and that's it. Yep. Tons of skill, tons of practice, tons of finesse, all led to this amazing run here. Now, compared to one of the fastest runs I've ever seen, and especially the fastest run in this video, we are going to be moving on to one of the longest speedruns I have ever seen. This run is in Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. You know Legend of Zelda, right? The game where you go, huh! The difference between this run and your standard Legend of Zelda run, or any speedrun for that matter, is it's a low percent speedrun. Basically, what a low percent speedrun means is that runners are not only looking to get the fastest time possible to complete the game, but also looking to do it with the least amount of things obtained as possible. To break it down in simple terms, let's say one run obtains 5 things, correct? And this run takes 2 hours to complete. Right now, they would be at the top of the leaderboard. But let's say little old me, Dorian, goes to do the same run, and I only obtain 4 things. However, rather than taking 2 hours, I took 10 hours, or 24 hours, or 3,000 hours. I would still be higher up on the leaderboard because this is a low percent run. As long as my run obtained less than 5 items, I am winning. Now, this run we're going to be talking about took 4 hours, 36 minutes, and 4 seconds to complete. So you can already imagine what wacky and crazy tricks they're going to be doing. At first, a run like this may seem fairly straightforward, right? just collect less items. Wrong. In games, a lot of the time, certain areas are locked behind obtaining certain items or having a certain amount of said items. In the Twilight Princess low percent run, at the start of the game, there's a gate that's blocking Link's path. Rather than getting the items needed to pass by this gate normally, Anarakis, the person who did this run, chose to take a different route. He uses a rupee that he picked up to clip through that gate. The reason this happens is whenever Link discovers or picks up an item in Twilight Princess, the idle animation he's doing while holding that item isn't a perfect loop. There's actually one frame missing at the end of it. And because of this, every time the animation loops, Link moves ever so slightly in a certain direction. Combined with the fact that Link has minimal collision during this animation, runners can use this strategy to clip through certain sections of the game they normally wouldn't be able to get through without having certain items. There's another YouTuber that covered this run specifically in a lot more depth, so if you're interested in it, I'd recommend checking him out. I'll leave it in the description. Now, why did I choose this run here to talk about? I mean, look at it. Who the fuck thinks of this? Actually. And interestingly, this speedrun strategy was actually discovered by accident, which is a common occurrence for a lot of strategies used in speedruns. But this just reinforces what I really love about speedruns, and all these goofy and random ass techniques that are commonly used in the speedrunning community. Personally, I don't have enough patience when it comes to attempting speedruns, but this is on a whole nother level. The final category of the video. I saved this specific speedrun for all of you little filthy, dirty animals. Sex percent, a category in speedrunning that I don't think really needs much introduction. I actually didn't even know this was a category in speedrunning until researching for this video. However, it makes a lot of sense. If you can have sex in a video game, there is sure as hell going to be people trying to do it as fast as humanly possible. Now, like I said in my previous video, I've never really been one to love story games, which also happens to be the type of game that you can typically do this in. Games like Fallout, Cyberpunk, Baldur's Gate 3 all have the option to romance certain NPCs throughout the game. However, I was only able to really find an official time for sex percent in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I recently only started playing Baldur's Gate 3 for the first time a couple months ago, and I still have yet to complete it, but in my save, I started romancing Shadowheart. I was sad to find out that this is pretty common amongst most Baldur's Gate 3 players. I can't blame them. So it was a huge surprise for me when I found the run for sex percent in Baldur's Gate 3 and discovered that it was under 2 minutes. In actuality, even though the run is under 2 minutes, it still requires some meticulous and very particular pathing to get it. The runner, Bisque, starts by playing the intro sequence and skipping every single cutscene, and very specifically speeding through every single intro fight. After he strategically navigates going over to Emerald Grove after meeting Lae'zel, he does some specific dialogue options, does a couple long and short rests, and boom, it is time to get it on. Done in a measly 1 minute and 52 seconds. Regardless of how silly and goofy the concept of sex percent is, this run is still extremely impressive. This wasn't just some random joke run, even if the category itself is pretty funny. It's a legit run with a legit community. Just take a look at all these times submitted. I just pray that people that are doing the runs in this category are specifically only doing it in Baldur's Gate and nowhere else. I think that speedrunning as a whole is easily one of my favorite aspects of gaming, even if I don't participate in it myself. For example, when I'm playing Portal after already completing it, I may not be doing this, but after playing it so many times, I do like to try to complete it as fast and efficiently as possible. And seeing what other people can do in the speedrunning community is definitely an inspiration. Whether it's winning a game of volleyball in Poe, collecting a couple cups in Portal, or trying to have intimate relations in Baldur's Gate 3. It all requires a very deep understanding of the game being played, and in turn, a respect for said game. Anyways, thank you all for watching this video. I really appreciate all the love and support you provided on my last video about Portal, and if you want to see any more videos like this, whether it's about speedrunning, Portal, whatever you want, just let me know. Thank you for watching.